We're live!
You're
Waiting for Junior
This
again.
crappy internet.
All right, folks.
live.
We're live
There we go.
twice. Welcome, everybody, to Fed Up with Politics. I'm Jack. This is my brother Mike. Dennis is down in Florida. Mrs. Gravel, feel well. You guys enjoy each other's visit. All right, let's say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. So, I just had doing some work on the next book. I spoke to Dennis today. He's down there visiting his mom in Florida. Hope all is really doing good there, and I hope they really enjoy each other's company with that. And safe travels back and forth. So I was talking to Dennis, and we had he was telling me about the book, and the only reason why I'm mentioning it now is because doing research on the next book. But they had sent us a copy that was going to be finalized. We read through it. We found the mistakes. We went through, corrected the mistakes. They were small mistakes. It was small stuff like period supposed to be here, capital letter here, the word to instead of at, or just little things like that. Sent it back. It went back to the editor, I guess, to review our what we reviewed, to review.
Now,
and then it'll get sent back to us
to review the review that was reviewed.
Right. So now we're going to be on our triple review. And then we'll send it back, and hopefully it goes to print and it gets out in a few weeks or so. Hopefully. But doing, just reading. Not that I'm really doing too much work on the second book. I'm just reading things up on the topics that we made. So, I'm proficient in it.
Do you want to give the topics that you're reading? Or you want
We did that already.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I was reading through the American Constitution and its origins and developments, and it just had two things. This government has to go back to a government of laws, not men. That's important because this government to be sort of on cruise to them. Like, just as these things come up, you take care of it. But they're not, because they're so important down there.
So what they're saying right there is executive orders is a man making
right
instead of the laws.
And what else did they say is that free men can solve the problems of modern society under processes of law and without resort to tyranny.
Wow, that's what we're hearing now.
Right. We got a lot of tyranny going on from both parties. We got two terrible parties of political activists that do not care about what the wishes are of their constituents and the American people. They just don't care about us anymore. They're doing their own thing. They're passing their own laws in whatever form they feel like, which is a double-edged sword. It's good and bad. They're not touching the Constitution yet, but they're not listening to it either. So, there's that. Every time you suspend the Constitution, the country fails. Every country that ever did that, history shows that it fails. But these guys and gals, they're on there and they're in this country for them.
We're born in their time.
Yeah, we're the problem. The constituent is the problem. And we are a problem. We're our own problem because we refuse to let these people out. But I tell you, it's almost like Washington, D.C. paralyzed by their own interests and how to get there. And the American people are paralyzed with not knowing what to do. And that's what me and Dennis do every week. We try and show you what you can do. And, our biggest and best idea, I feel, is it took us a long time to formulate, but it's coming along, because we both live full lives outside of this.
Plus work.
So, folks, build your grassroots political opinions in your states like a microbrewery grows. To the fold of, like what Dennis was saying, putting all of these grassroots now on a state level, come under a canvas of our own of minor parties throughout the country. So now each one of these grassroots minor parties that are established in their own states can now bring yours into theirs and theirs into ours. And all the 135 people in Washington, D.C. working.
Panic.
Yeah, they're going to start working. They're going to start working for you.
All of a sudden, you're going to see them in your state shaking your hands.
Yeah. And when we decided to put our name on ballot for the next election, and when I say we, I mean me and Dennis, we want to put the Independent Constitutional Party on the ballot of South Carolina. My name may be on the ballot, but it's us working hard together to get it there.
To get the party together.
For past us, for
Right.
like what we like the terrific saying of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, which is part of our party name. Our posterity, he's worrying about his kids and his grandkids. I'm worrying about my kids and my grandkids. So more important than whose name is on the ballot, his or mine, the most important one is there's a grassroots philosophy on it now,
Right.
and what Dennis and Margaret were saying, because when they were first saying, we have to take these grassroots and take over the states, I was thinking to myself, listen, we got Russell Fry, he's running for a congressional spot to be a representative, he's going to be arguing with the other guy in primaries. We could slide right in and get right in there to the federal government where we belong. But they were right. Margaret and Dennis were right. Starting on the state level, because as you start looking at it, there's a lot of different things that the state can do to change the federal government if these grassroots start working the right way. In certain things, like what we always say, number one thing is make it just as hard for the Democrats and Republicans to get on a ticket. Start telling your U.S., your federal office, people running for a federal office, whether it be a representative or senator, that listen, we put an amendment in the state constitution. You can only use money from within the boundaries of what district you're in. So if you're a U.S. Senate, if you're running for a U.S. Senate, we don't want you accepting money from somebody from California. You're not representing somebody from California. You're representing South Carolina.
And that's where you get your donations.
And that's where you get your donations from. And all of that money that's in your war chest should go to that state's treasury.
Right.
So things can get done with it. This way, when you're starting to pass bills and stuff, you don't have to worry about special interests that are on the other side of this country, throughout this country, and throughout this world. Because, like me and Dennis were saying, your tax dollars are going to these campaigns because they're passing these bills. And they are passing these bills to special interests who is then now donating to their campaigns and their parties. So the tax dollars going there. And it's not staying in the United States. These are worldwide global companies of special interest. So you're getting money throughout the world in our politics, not representing Americans. And there's your problem, folks. So let's start taking over these states. Do your microbrewery best to get your state going. Jump in under the canvas that everybody else in these minor parties are going to be in and start spreading it throughout the United States. What a powerhouse.
Yeah.
What a powerhouse when the United States people start taking the bull by the horns now.
Yeah.
Instead of, grabbing the donkey by the tail.
Yeah, because they could go back to the rules and laws of how you vote for your senator. You can't use a mail-in ballot.
Well, yeah, and there you have it. If we could start getting better candidates to run, it really has to be the folks that aren't in it for the greed. And it's hard because the money that they're making in Washington, D.C.
It's amazing.
is life-changing for generations.
More money than they would ever be able to get anywhere else.
Yeah. And we had this whole thing with what's going on with Hunter Biden, but I think next week I would like to put in, I would like to do my show next week on other kids for politicians and what they're worth. Because they're selling the brand. And what happened was they were selling the brand, and that's the new thing on the news. They're selling the brand. They're selling the brand.
Like it's something new.
Right. So, and then I realized that Liz Cheney is worth $44 million from that Larry Kudlow show I watched.
And how long has she been in office?
I don't know if she was in. That's what I wanted. That's why I don't want to say too much because I don't know how long she was in office and what she did before, if she owned her own business, or was she just a politician's daughter?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where she got her wealth from, and then came into office and got it through insider trading and stuff like that.
Yeah, because the families are allowed to do that.
Yeah, and then to go even further and extend that, John Kerry's son, I saw a report a year or two ago when this all started going with Hunter Biden, that John Kerry's son was working alongside Hunter Biden on some project until I guess Hunter Biden just like jumped completely on the wrong side of the line. And he goes, "Yeah, good. That you keep doing that. I'm calling it quits here because my mom's rich.
Right.
She's part of the Heinz family. So if I really need to make as much money as you want to, there, Hunter, all I got to do is ask my mother for a raise, raising my in my allowance." So there are some powerful people that are powerful in Washington D.C. because of their spouses. John McCain was one. Mitch McConnell's one now. But a guy like Chuck Schumer, he never did anything except politics, and he's worth $75 million.
Where'd that money come?
What did his kids do? If he has kids, what do they do for a living? What are they doing? I mean, again, let's say, just for instance, because I don't know, and that'll be next week's show, but let's say Chuck Schumer's child is a lawyer. Okay, so that's good. He went to school, became a lawyer. But is he working for the law firm that your father's affiliated with? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Again,
well, that's a paycheck through his father to him,
right?
To keep the money in the family.
Exactly. So
and then when he retires, he has money.
Yeah. So we'll look into that next week. So the country's being run by tyrants. Washington, D.C. is paralyzed through greed. The American people are paralyzed through
fear. I don't know what to do.
Not knowing what to do. How do we get out of this? It's almost like they woke up and everything's changed.
Yeah.
And we have a generation that doesn't know how to get back to what they grew up with, and we have a generation that's not being taught their rights.
They don't know they're losing their rights because they don't know their rights.
They were never taught.
That's something I want to ask. Like you were saying, the grassroots, and if the states started fighting back against the federal government, is there anything a state can do to get rid of the Department of Education and have their own?
No. Well, each state does have their own Department of Education. But I tell you, we talk about Hillsdale College. And Hillsdale College is maybe the only, if it's not the only school in the country, it's one of the few schools in the country that take no government money. It's just strictly through tuition and donations. And the way they got that way, they had to go to the Supreme Court.
Wow.
And they had to go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they won that case. And they are, like I said, either the only or one of the very, very, very few schools that take no money from the federal government. And that's why they're allowed to teach what they want to teach.
What about the public schools? Can the state do the same thing with the public schools? Keep it under their control, not accept any federal funds?
They would probably have to go to court for it. But here's the problem. The states have a problem because, not ours, but most of the states, the teachers are run under a union. And the unions are in bed
with the government,
right?
With the board of.
So these unions aren't going to let that happen. They can't even do the charter schools. You go to New York and their charter schools are a joke. They're a little bit better down here.
It's a shame because they're pushing their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And if the state wants to get back their if the state wants their children to learn about their country, they got to get rid of it.
Florida's changed their public schools, and DeSantis is in trouble with it right now because everybody agrees nothing good came out of slavery. There was nothing that was right about slavery. There was not one thing. But in Florida's Department of Education, like one of the last lines in it was that, well, the one good thing about slavery was it taught a work skill. And
oh boy.
So, obviously, no, they did not teach a work skill.
They forced the work.
Right. They forced a work skill.
Right.
If you wanted to do it or not.
You don't have a choice of what you're going to learn to do,
right? Except
what I'm going to teach you to do.
So instead of being like, you guys are right, we're going to line that one out, he defended it. And he's in trouble with that a little bit, His whole campaign is in trouble. I tell you,
the young guy is.
Yeah.
I'm impressed by
Vivek
that
Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy is...
I'm going to keep
some
an eye
kind
on
of
that
special
guy.
He's in his 30s right now. He's only been married for 8 years, but
talk about change. He wants change.
Well, he's the only one that went and sued the Department of Justice because he knows he's moving in the polls where DeSantis is kind of staying the same. So he almost has a probability of being second.
Yeah.
And he sees it like what me and Dennis have been
Am I
saying the
gonna be
whole time.
next?
Oh, shit. If this happens to Trump, I got hundreds of millions of dollars, but I ain't
can't
him.
afford to pay for this.
He's worth about $500-600 million, but he doesn't have Trump money by no means. He's a young guy.
He's worth how much?
I looked it up. It said $500-600 million. I forget what it was.
He owns I think a pharmacy company, but he worked. That was his work.
He did that, and his wife is a surgeon. Believe it or not.
Right,
I mean,
and he has some books out, or at least one book out.
Yeah, I think he has 2 books out.
And he wants change.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with that man.
Well, like the Democrats have Buttigieg. He's their brilliant Rhodes Scholar, well-spoke, can debate you like that, thinking on his feet kind of guy, can say it the way it needs to be. Well, I think this guy Vivek is the Republican side of that.
Yeah.
And but who knows if we can keep this going and maybe he'll jump ship and come over to one of these minor parties as they start growing under these canopies.
Yeah, coming to one.
Well, even you don't want to change everybody. Let him. The more, the better. I feel. George Washington was afraid of party politics,
Yeah.
but you know what? Maybe if we start getting, we can do the whole 180 thing where, okay, 1 or 2 parties is no good, but you know what? 50 may get us the best, because you want to know what happens when you have that many parties going? Debate.
Yeah, debate.
Debate always brings the best
when was
ideas.
the last time you heard a debate? And I'm not talking about these debate for the presidency, because I don't consider that a debate. It's entertainment.
Well,
Nobody's put to the test.
There's
no originality.
True debate is on the floors of the Senate
And that's gone.
And they don't have that. That hasn't been there since the 80s.
Yeah. Well, like you and Dennis said, there's one party. Why are you debating?
Yeah,
are you making $40 million? Are you making what are we debating about?
Yeah.
We're all happy.
It's kind of like, I like steak. Yeah, I like steak too. Well, I like mine medium well. Well, I like mine rare. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, at least we still like the steak.
Yeah. And listen, I'll talk to you tonight at the cocktail party.
Yeah, we're gonna be at that $10,000 campaign dinner. I'll meet you there.
Yeah. So Dennis isn't here. I really wanted to talk about. I really feel, we know why Washington D.C. is paralyzed, but the American people, I feel, are kind of stuck without knowing what to do, and it's exactly what Dennis said. We get this here going. We've been saying it. You get these grassroots, and you get it into an umbrella, and you get it going. Here's another way you can do it. Dennis had called us earlier, and he asked us about an article from the Huffington Post, which is a liberal. It's a liberal media magazine news, and they said to the effect that Donald Trump said that he could be in Mar-a-Lago in the south of France, and he'd rather be there than America. So Dennis's question was on the phone. I don't know if he's going to call us tonight, or I think he might be heading out and getting a bite to eat. But anyway, he's visiting with his mom. But he did take the time to call us earlier and discuss this. So again, to going along with this, as the American people are paralyzed, they watch the news. They listen to their favorite news organization, and they have it. Well, you got this Huffington Post that's saying that Donald Trump, former president of the United States, says he'd rather be in the south of France than the United States. So his question was, did he really say that?
I haven't heard it.
Or is the Huffington Post
making it up,
twisting his words around?
Yeah, he could have said something like, I could be in South France right now.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm running for a country and helping them.
So Dennis's thing was, are they twisting his words? And I said, knowing the Huffington Post, they might have just made the whole thing up.
It's not like it happened. Isn't the first time that's happened.
So what me and Dennis are trying to tell you is, very rarely that there's a document or a subject. Now, we showed you last week, the last indictment that came down on Trump. The indictment's on. I went on, and I downloaded 45 pages of his indictment. So read it. Okay, so you want to read what's going on there. You interpret it yourself. It wasn't really legalized. It was pretty layman's term. I mean, I read part of it to everybody.
Yeah.
Baka, 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 baka.
I really understood the part
And
where
if-
they were defending him
And if
on
you
his rights.
and if you don't understand something like that, you go back on and you go to a definition. What does this mean? And you can get it. You know, it's other things that you can't go to, like these poor people in Hawaii. You know, they got this fire. Well, what did the fire start from? What has been the condition of their forestry? Has the state been taking care of their forestry? Is that what it? You know, those are harder things to investigate. You know, and it's a tragedy. And, you know, again, you don't want to label a tragedy people are suffering. But if you're interested in it, of what had happened, you don't want it to happen to your state, well, maybe find out why this is. Did it start in a campground? How did it go from a campground to here? I don't know any of these answers, you know. But a perfect example is the 2020 election. You know, you sit there and you watch the right-leaning news outlet and you watch the left-leaning news outlet, and they're just saying what sells for them. Again, they're selling their brand, and they're going and they refuse to report the facts, even if it helps their brand. So they'll go in there and they'll start arguing, well, this and that, and it's because of this and it's because of that. Well, Dennis more because he's a bigger number guy, just went on. So all the news outlets, both left and right, were saying Biden had gotten 81 million votes and Trump got 75 million. Well, you do the math and you're
Add them together.
yeah, and you're up to you're up to 156 million people voted in that election. So Dennis goes up on the government website and see how many people, and it was like 160 million. So even if it's the right leaning, you know, you got Newsmax and Fox, and then you have MSNBC and CNN, they're all saying the numbers, but they're not saying, well, according to what everybody's reporting, 156 million people voted out of 160 million eligible. So the American people should be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Since when did we ever have this high percentage in an election? Never.
Since when have you had that many registered voters? You know, according to and again, like Dennis is saying, and we say every week, you know, like Dennis was saying today, what do you need? 2 TVs in your room to watch the left side news and right side news and come in? But, you know, do your own research on it. Yeah,
It
there's a
takes
paper
10
trail
minutes.
somewhere.
Right. So just look at it. And then if you still have questions, well, for me, because I have the information that the news is for.
Right.
And they're not saying it. So then now we watch the news. You can ask my brother how many times he comes over my house to watch the news, and I'll say, ba, 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 ba. And then they'll come up and say part of that. And he'd be like, that's just what you said. I'm like, yeah, no, I said, because we looked it up. But they didn't say this. Right. They didn't say this because that stops the sale of their news.
Their brand.
So they're only going to tell you what they want you to hear.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you what you need to hear. Because everybody that's selling their brand, politicians, the media, they're all making the money off of us. They don't want us to see the problem and the solution. So obviously there's a problem. You're telling us that out of 160 million voters, 156 of us voted.
What's that, 98, 99%?
You know, so they don't want, because now that's just putting it out there too blatant for us.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, when did this happen?
When I went to vote, there was hardly a line.
Yeah, right. Where was everybody? I walked right up there. I was in and out.
But, you know, I stopped calling these 24-hour broadcast news. It's opinion information.
Yeah.
Opinion news. It's their opinion.
I don't even think it's
Of the
news
news.
anymore. It's just
Of what they heard.
It's their entertainment of what, you know, and they put this heavy brow on it. Man. You know, until something like, again, it's the same thing. I could tell you right now what would happen if anything happened to Hunter Biden as far as indictments go. Newsmax and Fox are going to be doing backflips and jumping for joy. The other ones probably won't even show it.
No.
if anything happens to Trump, as far as indictments go or anything like that,
Say
the
it
left-
the other way around.
they're not going to be able to. I mean, when Barack Obama won the election, Christopher, he's on MSNBC. He used to work for Carter's administration. He was literally on live TV saying that his legs were shaking. He was my legs are trembling. I'm so excited because Barack Obama won.
The opposite happened with Trump.
Right.
They were literally crying tears.
Right. So, like we say all the time, and especially Dennis, listen, if the American people don't start listening to what me and Dennis say, we're going to be able to write books forever.
Yeah.
And they'll be going out there, but start listening to what's being. Worry about the future generations of your family. Worry about your kids and grandkids. Worry about your nieces and nephews. Because I tell you what, they don't know.
No, that's what I'm afraid of. We got some 18-year-old high school kids that are going to be graduating this year that don't know. They've been taught.
Mike, we got 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds that don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they don't know what they're losing. They're saying, I don't understand. What's the problem? What's so bad about Biden?
Yeah. Well, because, again, they breed mediocrity. So if you're going to be mediocre, then there's no work in that. And that's what we were saying before. The federal government wants to raise minimum wage to between $15 and $18 an hour.
That destroys small businesses.
But that's not even the point. Anybody that's on minimum wage should be a kid learning what the difference is between a good boss and a bad boss, a good coworker and a bad coworker, a hard day's work and not a hard day's work, how to come home and give your parents $35 of your, your $75 bill,
Room and board.
$70 paycheck, and understand that your $35 to your parents pays for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the roof over your head, the TV, the internet. Your clothes, wash and dried and folded and put on your mattress.
Nice warm bed.
Yeah, a ride back and forth to here and there.
Everywhere. Your soccer practice, your school.
Right. When you have your car and it's going, help with your insurance, help with a maintenance problem, a mechanical problem.
Start you off with your cell phone.
A guy like myself with a wife and 4 kids are not supposed to be working in a job where you get minimum wage.
But that's the job. Those are the numbers they see when they say, "Oh, unemployment went down, employment went up." It's these little jobs, these poor men that lost their jobs, that has to support their family, that have to take 2 or 3 of these $15, and that's not the way it was meant. And they're taking credit for extra jobs that aren't there.
Listen, society's not perfect. We know that. Like if you had gotten incarcerated for whatever mistake, there's always regret in life, and you're learning. But again, if you're in this is teaching you how to get up and go to work every day,
right?
Not hustle on the street corner. This is to show you that this is how you go. This is how you work for a person. This is how you grow past that and have people start working for you. If there is somebody that's coming out of something like that, yeah, maybe some society part, but it should work through society, not through government, to get that person on the way to going.
Yeah, anytime the government sticks their finger into anything, it becomes a disaster.
Yeah, they're not the help, they're the problem. No. The government is not your helper, it is your problem.
And that's why I was saying, is there any way we could get the Department of Education out of states? Because they're doing exactly what they want. They're pushing their psychology onto our kids, their philosophies onto our kids, and they're not supposed to be taught that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't go into the schools anymore. I have grandkids, but it's not really my job to go in there and get. I have luckily, my son goes in there and he talks with the teachers. But from what I'm hearing. And I don't know this, again, maybe I should start hitting some of these schools and go with my son. It doesn't seem like they're teaching them math, science, reading, English, history. They're teaching them pronouns,
right? philosophies,
opinions.
opinions.
And that was,
And you know how I found out? My daughter, during COVID, was watching it on the computers. And then people were saying, whoa, wait a minute. You shouldn't be teaching my child that. I'll teach her or him what I feel is right or wrong. We just teach them the math, science, social studies, and English.
you know, I love my father. My father is probably one of the smartest people I ever met in my life. He's the kind of guy that just goes straight to the point. Like, and if you don't understand it, you should. And, you know, we were talking about these states, California, Washington, Oregon, that are saying that you could take these kids and have them change their gender without telling the parents.
Yeah.
And he goes, you know, Jack, what happened to the day when you guys went to school where the nurse in the school wasn't allowed to give you an aspirin if you had a headache without asking my permission?
That's right.
Now you're going to let them change a gender and take this kid away from the family. Literally, just like kidnap this child.
And get you for child support, child abuse if you say anything against that.
Yeah. You know, I mean, my own son was in school and I had to get a note from the doctor to allow them to have a bottle of Tylenol that me and Missy bought and sent to school with him.
Yeah.
With a doctor's note saying that the nurse can give him this Tylenol, you know, this many times a day. And it's just a simple process of, you listen to a guy like my father, who was born and, you know, he was a baby boomer. No, he wasn't. He was before baby boomers.
Yeah.
But, you know, he raised kids and owned his own business and did a great job. There was 5 of us. And he just, you know, everybody's up in arms about what these schools are doing. And he comes out with a simple thing like, yeah, what happened to the days when the nurse had to call me up to see if they can give you a Tylenol because you had a headache?
And now you can change your sex.
Yeah, now you can take this kid, the parent doesn't even know where they are, and they get, here, Johnny is now Joni. And there's nothing you can do about it. Sorry, we did it.
Yeah.
They're not even sorry. They're more like, screw you, we did it.
Yep. It's scary. And you tell me that's not tyranny. Tyranny.
Well,
where they get to start taking your kids and doing what they want. Isn't that what Russia does?
Biden said it right there on TV. They're not your kids. They're ours.
Yep.
They're not your. That is right. So listen, America. That's what we're trying to say. They're taking away what you are supposed to be doing.
They're destroying the family.
They're destroying your family. They're destroying the grassroots of neighborhoods. You know,
they don't want you to talk about anything.
Yeah, they don't want you to go to church. They don't want you to go to sports events. They destroyed the Boy Scouts. They're destroying the Girl Scouts. They're allowing boys to play in girls' sports. What is that for? It's to tear that community apart.
Right.
It is to tear that community apart so they don't get together at these meets and talk back and forth and realize that they have more in common than they do not in common. And that because division, you know, when you divide people, you can rule them easier.
Yeah.
And that's what me and Dennis say a lot of times. I think you can write a book. I think you could write a book on how many different types of categories the United States government has put the American. Yes. They have created more groups that should be against each other in this country. Rich and poor. It's not black and white. It's black, white, brown, Asian, religious, Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, Christian, you know, all of it. Rich and poor, smart genders, females, and, you know, all of these. It goes on and on. If you're pro-American or not, if you believe in your flag or not, I mean, it just divides. I mean, you can write probably a 12-chapter book on the different sectionalisms that this country's putting you in. And we're falling for it.
This government has done it.
And you want to know why you're falling for it, folks? Because you're sitting there in front of this idiot box, watching these idiots tell you lies.
Yeah. And what you should be thinking. How do you have the nerve to think this way, is what they're saying to you. You should be listening to me.
They're telling you lies, folks.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a simple process for it. Look it up yourself.
Yeah.
Do your own research. And when we
There's a
and,
paper trail.
and I gotta maybe Dennis. I think Dennis is busy right now, but if he's not, maybe we should change the word from research, because research makes it kind of sound like, well, I'm going to be here researching this one thing. The whole week's going to go by the time I come up with an answer. But, just find out your own information.
Yeah.
If you have a topic that's getting that pings you to go look on the news, I want to see what the news is reporting on that. Look it up yourself first. If it has something to do with documents or laws or this or that, look it up, print it out from the official places. If it's a state thing, county thing, federal thing, there's a paper trail for it. Look it up, read through it, and when you watch the idiots on the idiot box,
Then
you're going to be like,
wow, they left something out there.
that person's an idiot.
Yeah, they left out something very important that they didn't say. And people, when news agency only tell you part of the news, that's an agenda. They only want that means they're trying to steer you away from the real news. This is what we want you to know. This is what we don't want you to know.
And if you want to see, again, this is what me and Dennis started doing. Now it's been a couple of years. Me and Dennis have been working on this now probably 3.5 years. We've been doing this. And, we've tried all sorts of things. I've tried watching CNN and MSNBC and regular channels, Channel 7 News, Channel 4 News, watching all of these things, watching Fox, watching Newsmax, the one that's off the air now, AON or whatever it is, NOA, whatever it was.
That was a shame, too.
And I would sit there and I would go, now, sometimes these channels don't cover 0 seconds
They
of
don't
what
say
this
anything.
one is spending 15 minutes on.
Well,
And it goes back and forth this way. And so I was starting to watch these other channels to see, is it really getting that bad? And that's how it was. It was like, well, that's not what that other place was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely different. And if you allow yourself to walk into that mentality, when you listen to both of them, they both sound right. They're professionals.
Mm.
They are professional brainwashers. They are
Yes, they are.
brainwashing you. And every time you listen to them, if you do it with a closed mindset, you'll be like, that's right. That's 100% right.
Try to talk to some of these people that believe in CNN and try to talk them out of what they have said.
Right, though, it's the other thing,
almost
too.
impossible. And you're absolutely right. People that are watching Fox News, try to talk them out of what the other person, that station said. It's almost impossible. That's how good a job they're doing.
There are so many different outlets out there, and I'm going to wrap this up now because Dennis isn't here, and I don't want to drone on and on without his other conversation on it. But again, if you want to see how these reports get put on the news, go onto YouTube and watch these congressional hearings that are going on.
Mm.
I was watching them when the Democrats had the majority. Now I'm watching them when the Republicans have the majority. And I tell you what, there is no debate. There is no argument. It is scripted 100%.
And then it's over.
And then it's over and nothing gets done. But you can hear right from their mouth exactly what they're saying. Exactly what they're saying. And you can start seeing the nuances of their words. So there are words that are admitting that, let's say, Hunter Biden's guilty on this thing. But the nuance of the way they're saying it was like, well, like there was one testimony with the guy that used to work with Hunter Biden. And he was like, this is why these congressional hearings are not true, because there's no cross-examination. They're not a court. So this politician is leading the witness on and saying, well, wouldn't you say it's A, B, and C? Yeah, it could be if you want to be. Where if you were on court, objection, leading the witness.
Yeah.
You're not. So exactly what me and Dennis has been saying. At the beginning of every congressional hearing, which you should start watching on YouTube, you can watch all of them. They make the witnesses swear. They got to swear that they're going to tell the truth. Well, I think that the whole room should stand and swear because those guys and gals that are up on that podium looking down on you. they're lying.
Yeah.
On both sides of the aisle. Watch YouTube. Watch these congressional hearings. You can watch them. They're hours long, and you can watch them 5 minutes at a time of what the Democrats saying over here. Just watch the leading ones of them. You know, the 3-4 leading ones on the Democrat, the 3-4 leadings on the Republicans. Listen to what they're saying. They're not coming up with any solutions. They're coming up with accusations,
And then it's over.
and then it's over. And they're lying, and they're leading the witness. You're not allowed to lead the witness. You're not allowed to put words in the witness's mouth.
Right.
So anyway, that's what I got to say, folks. Dennis, safe trip. Enjoy your visit with your mom, and tell Mrs. Gravel, hope everything's done good. Take care of the prayer, will you?
All right, I'm going to read from the Bible. I'm going to read the gospel and then my favorite prayer out of the gospel. Out of the Bible. Also, I just wanted to pray for all those poor people in Maui. Please protect them and please help the families that have lost loved ones. That's a shame what's happening there. We're going to 1 Corinthians. Oh, Jack has a question.
Dennis writes, Kanye West owes $500K in taxes. Democrats are going after him. They are nervous about a third party candidate. This time is for a major party to get in the games. Starting your community, we can help people walk through the process. This time now, new people to run the office, but not Democrats or Republicans tickets.
That's right.
Yep, well, they're going after the new guy. Huh?
Sorry.
1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 1 through 4. Moreover, brethren, I declare unto you the gospel which I preached unto you, which also ye have received, and wherein ye stand, by which also ye are saved, if ye keep in memory what I preached unto you, unless ye have believed in vain. For I delivered unto you first of all that which I also received, how that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the Scriptures. And now I'm going to Timothy, 1 Timothy chapter 2, 1 through 6. I exhort therefore that first of all supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings, and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior, who will have all men to be saved and to come unto the knowledge of the truth. For there is one God and one mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus, who gave himself a ransom for all, to be testified in due time. Amen.
Amen. All right, folks, have a good weekend. Look up your topics. Learn how nasty the press is, and you'll know how nasty our politicians are.
Yeah. We got to get term limits too.
Change your future. All right. God bless everybody. Don't be afraid to be an American.
Amen. Did you do yours?